Hi guys, today is the 5,000 subscribers special and I'll be answering your questions. Let's get started. So, first question, if you're comfortable with it, I'd like to hear about you. Who are you and what do you do? My name is Jamel Capitan, but I go by J because it's just easier to spell and much easier to remember. In terms of work, I work in security. It's really nothing special. It's not cybersecurity in case you're wondering, it's just good old security, watching CCTV cameras for a living. So, what do you do outside filming and editing keyboard videos? Well, I play a lot of video games, I read visual novels, and of course, I have my full-time job. So, what was your first mechanical keyboard or switch? Right, so my first keyboard ever, mechanical keyboard, was the Cooler Master Quickfire TK with Cherry MX Browns. Yeah, I'm not gonna elaborate on that. How did you discover the hobby? Now, bit of a weird one, I discovered mechanical keyboards through an LTT video from 2016, and that's how I discovered mechanical keyboards, not quite the hobby, but keyboards, mechanical keyboards. It wouldn't be until 2019, I would say, when Glorious released the GMMK, the Glorious Modular Mechanical Keyboard, I believe. And I've been following Glorious for a very long time, even before that, and when they released that keyboard, I bought one. And that's kind of how I got started in the hobby. Topre, yay or nay? I would say more towards nay. I'm not really a big fan of Topre, I think they're very mushy feeling, but I've only ever tried Topre in one configuration, I think 45 grams, and there's a lot of things with Topre that I haven't tried, so yeah, I've yet to explore that part of the hobby, to be fair. How many keyboards and switches do you have? Currently, I have 101 keyboards and 119 switches. If you made your own signature switch, what would it be? Well, I wouldn't start from scratch. I'd say I'd use something that already exists, something like the Kale Box Jade, but I would probably speak to Kale and say we need to improve the actuation and click to be more precise. And I'd do the same for all of the other box switches, at least the clicky ones anyway, because that's one of their major issues. But I wouldn't start from scratch, certainly not. I'm not an engineer, so yeah, I wouldn't really know what to do, to be fair. Opinion on group buys. Well, in the early parts of the hobby, they were very, very, very important. That's how you got most of your stuff. Nowadays, with things in stock, with Keychron offering a whole bunch of keyboards in their catalog, I really don't think group buys are as important as they were. Unless you're looking for something super, super specific, then yes, I would say group buys are for that. But for the majority of people, group buys are not really. I wouldn't really recommend that you look towards them, especially if you're just starting in the hobby. What about Hall effect switches? Oh man, Hall effect switches are not new, by the way. They've been around since I think the late 60s, early 70s with Honeywell, so they're not new. But they have started a resurgence in the hobby, especially in the gaming space, and I think they're really, really cool. Do I think GMK is overpriced? I'm assuming you mean the keycaps sets. And the answer is no, not really. I mean, yeah, they're expensive, sure, but would you say a Rolls Royce is overpriced? I don't think so. They are pricey, but there are a bunch of cheaper options out there if you really can't afford GMK, which is for most people, they are pricey as hell. Speaking of GMK keycaps, I actually have a set of GMK caps, the GMK Metropolis R2, as well as a PBT fans are white on black, and I have to say the quality between the two is close enough. The GMK quality is still up there, obviously, but considering how much cheaper the PBT fan set is, I'd suggest that people would look into that more than GMK. Still, I don't think GMK is overpriced. No, I don't think so. How do I see the hobby in the future? I expect to see more Hall effect switches. Not just linear ones, but tactile and clicky ones as well. We need to see more of those. And I think that's where the hobby is sort of going towards. How long have you been in the hobby for? Well, I discovered mechanical keyboards in 2016, like I said, and I'd say 2019 is sort of my entry point to the hobby ever since I bought the GMMK, so roughly 5 to 5.5 years, I'd say. What is your current main board? Well, that's the keyboard I test with, to be fair. I don't really have a main board apart from that. That has the most used out of any of the keyboards I have, so yeah, the test board is my main keyboard. Tactiles or linears? Tactiles. 100% tactiles any day. I'd take tactiles over linears any day, dude. If you had Frankensteined any Switch, what was your favorite? If I have Frankensteined any Switch, what was your favorite? I haven't done a lot of Frankenswitches, to be fair. I've only ever reviewed the Holy Panda, but I know there's a bunch of other Frankenswitches out there, and soon enough I'll experiment, but I don't really think that's gonna happen anytime soon, to be fair. What's your favorite Switch? Tactile and linear. Now, I don't know why you excluded clicky switches out of the picture, but tactile wise, I would say right now the Kiboom Taro Cream Milk for modern switches. And for linear, I would say the Steel Series Omnipoint switch, the Hall Effect one. Those would be my tactile and linear choices. Now for clicky, I would say the Kalebox Jade or the Kalebox Pink. What's my opinion on the most overrated and most underrated Switch? Now, overrated is a bit harder. I would say Topre, especially back then. I'm not sure about now, but especially back then, people were talking about Topre like it was the best thing ever, and it really isn't, in my opinion. Now, underrated, there is a lot of underrated Switches. Let me name the ones I think are actually underrated. The Switch I reviewed recently, the Ultimate Panda, I think that's underrated. The Taro Cream Milk by Kiboom, that's also underrated. The Durock POM Switch, the full POM, the Durock POM Switch, that's underrated. And I'd say the Greetek Brown from back in the day, early in the channel, I would say that's underrated as well. If you like the MX Brown, but you want a bit more tactility, but you don't want to spend that much money, I'd say the Greetek Brown is a really good Switch. For the money anyway. I guess I'll also just throw in the Kalebox Pink since it's one of my favorite Switches and it doesn't really get talked about. It's a really good clicky Switch for what it is. So I'd say that's also underrated, but a lot of people also already know it exists. Right, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the hypes and unknown prime switches you've encountered during your review journey. There hasn't really been that many. I mean, in terms of hype switches, there is the Novel Keys Cream, which I thought was absolute trash. There is the Gatron Oil King I reviewed recently, and that was pretty good. But that's really it for hype switches that I've reviewed. I haven't reviewed that many of them. And also, in case you have any, please show us more of your keyboards you use during Switch evaluation. I'd really appreciate that. Well, you've kind of seen most of it, to be fair. I mean, I haven't really gone deep into what case I use, what foam is in there, and what PCB I use and everything. I guess I could do that as well. Also, let me show you something you might not expect. Right, so this is what I was on about. If you guys know what this is, well, you know what it is, don't you? I am now able to make force curves in the future. Now, you probably won't be seeing this in any of my reviews at all until maybe next year, since I'm still learning how to use it. It's not plug and play. It's more complicated than I thought, but it is really fun learning how to use this and what it's capable of, so yeah, this is a really, really cool device, honestly. Right, what are things you don't like in mechanical keyboards? Any trends I don't like? Well, it's certainly not RGB or full size. I would say switch recolors. I don't really see the point unless you're going for a specific aesthetic, but then again, you have keycaps to cover over your switches, so kind of pointless, I guess. Unless you have transparent keycaps, then yeah, sure. Also, that's another thing, transparent in anything, transparent case, plate, all of that transparent stuff. I think we will go back, we'll go in the future and then we'll look back at transparent stuff and go, huh, yeah, that was interesting, but then, you know, I think it's a fad, honestly. I don't dislike it, but I do think it's a fad that will go away, I think. What are your preferred keycap sets? Well, anything Dolch, I really like. I have a set of DSS Dolch installed in my keyboard right now. If you don't know, I'm not testing anything, I'm taking a break. And I really like that colorway. Profile-wise, I would say MT3, DSS, and CXA would be my top 3. Two questions. Do you plan on upgrading the test keyboard again? And also, are there any HMX switch reviews coming up? Second one, no, I don't. I don't even know what that is. And am I gonna upgrade the test keyboard again? Yes, I will. It will get a huge change. Come next year or so. It depends. But it definitely will get changed for sure. Where can someone find a list of keyboard companies or online keyboard stores? If you click my link in the description, it will be the first link. Click on that and it will take you to basically every single keyboard store in existence. So, have fun. Is there a list for all the rankings of the switches you've reviewed? Yes, again, link in the description for that. It's called the KeebScore in case you're wondering. For a cheap keyboard, which do you think is more reliable, Hotswap or soldered? Well, they're both good options, but if you're more experimental, go with Hotswap. If not, go with soldered. So, there you have it. Or if you want to learn how to solder, then go with soldered as well. Now, what type of switches do you think is good for coding? Well, that's up to you. That's a preferential thing. I certainly wouldn't like anything linear and lightly weighted, but I know some of you really love that. So, yeah, that's up to you. That's your preference, man. How do you find coding in 60% keyboards? Well, it's not ideal. Is it usable? Yes, kind of. It's usable, but I wouldn't use a 60% for coding. Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't even bother. Which is the best clicky versus tactile versus linear switch for online fighting games? Again, that's a preference. See, for me, I would choose something extremely tactile or extremely clicky. I wouldn't choose linear switches for games like that. But, again, preference is a thing. I know some of you really like your light linear switches that are very sensitive. That's cool. No harm against that. I'm not like that, so there really is no best option. What do you do with the switches once you've reviewed them? They just get stored behind me. I mean, you can see all the storage, just behind me actually. So, yeah, they just get stored, and I do pull them out occasionally to test against the switch that I'm testing with. So, yeah, but they live in the storage room for the most part. Alright, so this is a bit of a technical one. I've seen this guy on YouTube with a problem with the Kumara K552 where some keys don't register, and he said he fixed the issue with compressed air and now the keys are working properly. Why is this a thing? What's the issue? Well, I'd like to think the issue is dust. There's a reason why switches nowadays have dust proofing. So if you look at box switches, for example, from Kale, there's a wall just outside where your keycaps would go in, right? And there's a bunch of other companies like Gatron and Altemu that have dust proofing. And so I think it's dust that got through the gap. And usually when you have compressed air, you're trying to get rid of dust or dirt or anything like that. So yes, dust is probably what caused that issue. Have you tried any other operating systems apart from Windows, Mac, Android, and iOS, and what are they? Yes, I tried Linux, Ubuntu, Mint, and Debian a few years back, but right now I'm using Windows. Have you ever tried a keyboard-driven text editor such as Vim or Emacs? Nope, I had never have. Are there any incoming low-profile speed switches? Now, if you're asking me to review them, there aren't really that many that exist, and the ones that I have tried aren't really that great. So, maybe in the future I'll review them, but don't expect a positive review. Now, if you were the person who decided where to put the numpad, where would you put it? Well, I'm right-handed, so it's gonna have to be on the right side of the keyboard. However, you can buy something like the Keychron Q0, I believe, which is its own standalone numpad, and you can put that anywhere you'd like. It's not just Keychron, there's a bunch of other ones out there, but that's what I remember, so Yeah, you can buy separate you can buy separate numpads if you'd like. Now, do I think RGB and the software that comes with the keyboard add a significant cost for the keyboard? And the answer is no, I don't think so. The software bundled in keyboards, that Corsair, Razer, Logitech, SteelSeries, you name it, that's just not for keyboards. It's also for the mouse, it's for any microphones, headphones they have. So, it's not just for keyboards, they're bundled in for those as well. So I don't really think that's a significant cost. And RGB, I really don't think so either. LEDs are pretty cheap. So yeah, no, the answer is no. And finally, do you have any switch lubing tutorial video? If not, will you make one? No and maybe. There is already a lot of tutorials out there for beginners in the hobby, getting into the hobby. So I don't really think I need to make one. Maybe in the future, sure, but it's kind of a mute point to be fair. But if you really do want to see one, just let me know and I will try and make one. And that's it, that's the end of the video. Next time I will upload another special video, so stay tuned for that. But for now, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.